folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions Committee. It is Tuesday, March 25th. We are working on our final draft 5.1, of our capital bill, which we hope is our final draft for John's sake. Right? And we're going to be voting the bill out. I am scheduled to go to House Appropriations Committee tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to present the bill. Any and all of you are welcome to sit in the audience to have my back.
What time is it that you?
9 o'clock in Appropriations Committee. So it's usually a good hour, sometimes an hour and a half, depends how much they want to get in depth on it. So anyone is welcome to sit in the audience and listen. Our legislative counsel, John, will be there, as well as our JFO person, Scott Moore, will be there. So welcome. Just identify yourself for the record and give us a quick walkthrough of the changes.
Sounds good. John Gray, Office of Legislative Counsel. Just a few changes here in draft 5.1. You guys comfortable with just working off of the physical copies? I can screen share if you.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So first changes are section 3, and that starts on page 4. So we're looking at subdivisions A1 and B1, and the update is just to add a comma between design and construction.
Those comments.
Very cool. The next changes are sections 4A2 and B2, and those are both on page 6. This is to update, it's lines 2 and 9. This is updating from underwater preserves to Vermont underwater historic preserves. Yep. Oops.
What page again?
On page 6.
Line 2.
Line 2 and line 9. And then the next changes are on page 11. Section 19B1. And we're talking, this is line 8. Previously this said park infrastructure rehabilitation and improvement in 3 acre rule. This now says, we've moved some of the commas to account for.
They moved that and.
Yes, and we moved the and. It was, yes. So that's both subdivision B1 and on the next page, E1, which is on line 4 of page 12. So same change made in both sections. The last change is not going to be visible, but it is to section 17, the reallocations section. And where I can point to the actual change occurring is on page 22. We are in the notwithstanding sections of the reallocations. You'll recall that this is divided into actual reallocations, and then your last subsections talk about unexpended funds, which you guys are saying are authorized to remain with the entities for the projects for which those funds were appropriated. So you have the notwithstanding language here. Previously on line 1, subsection J set out 3 different BGS projects that were notwithstood, a 2015 project, a 2017, and a 2019. If you look at subdivisions 1 and 2 on lines 5 and 7, you'll see the 2017, that's your East Cottage, and 2019, various projects, BGS projects. Previously, there had been the 2015 Action Resolves project, and that's your $58,000 figure that you guys have reallocated to the Middlesex Print and Postal. So we didn't need to notwithstand that because it actually is being reallocated. But those are all of the changes that were requested. Yes, I hope that is it.
Right. So we did a line by line with this the other day, so we're not doing another one. But any thoughts, any questions? And I'm hoping all the numbers track between the spreadsheet and. They do.
Record, Madam Chair, Scott Moore, they do.
They do. So, any questions? We need to get the web published out.
Oh, right, that's right.
God bless you.
The motion.
Oh, you get that.
He's got to get the two.
Well, Bill, being the superstar that he is. Okay,
So I would entertain a motion to pass out draft 5.1.
Into, that's a, like, version 5.1 of the capital.
Second.
Mm,
It has been moved and seconded that we vote out draft 5.1, our capital bill. Is there any further discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Connor Casey,
Yes.
Gina Galfetti,
Yes.
Will Greer,
Yes.
Troy Hedrick,
Yes.
Luno. Yes. Ryan Minier,
we,
Ray Morrissey,
Yes.
Kevin Winter,
Yes.
Sean Sweeney, yes. James Gregoire,
yes.
and Alice Emmons.
Yes.
Chair.
Woohoo. Yes. We did it.
Yes.
We did it. So John will send you by email.
Yes, doing it right now.
Document that I need to do. This will be a committee bill. So you will see it tomorrow being read for the first time. There will be a bill attached to it. It will be read the first time tomorrow. And upon that reading, it will then be sent to Appropriations Committee. And then I'm assuming approps will probably vote it out of their committee tomorrow.
Oh, Alice, they have pieces that are actually already in theirs in accordance to some of the stuff we've already done. Yes.
They do, they don't have the projects listed yet, but they have the transfer of the general fund dollars to our bill. I would recommend that folks read the appropriations bill. It's on our desk, it came out today. And they did, wanted to double check the number. I don't have the bill here.
Got one here.
They appropriated the cash. It'll be hard to find here. You wouldn't know, Scott, what section it's in.
You're talking about the cash?
Yeah, in the appropriations bill, what section?
I can find out pretty quickly.
'Cause I have it marked on my bill,
What's the bill number?
493. It's in the back. It's the back. It's the appropriations section where they,
So the 2 million to ACCD is what, or to,
well, I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm looking at the 7.5 million from the cash fund. Gets
Oh.
appropriated to. I read it this morning. Towards the back. And I have it marked in mine.
Do it again.
Yeah, but it's
so I can point you to where the cash is, but I'm not sure if that's the same B 1102.
no, it's language in the back. I read it this morning.
You're on page 100. No, that's not it.
Station general fund transfer.
Well, it's not the, that's not it. The capital bill infrastructure fund,
Yeah, that, what?
page 114, line 7.
Okay, I'm
That's
almost,
not the language, that's the allocation.
but that's what you need. That's the only thing. Fund transfers from the general fund to the capital infrastructure fund, 7,542,469. So they've transferred that amount of money from the general fund to our cash fund. That's our appropriation piece. And they haven't put in, I don't believe, the projects yet because I haven't seen our bid. Don't think they put in our
The
project.
2 million?
We
No,
had something
what's
under
being funded by
administration.
cash for our projects.
Madam Chair, I can tell you that I did work with them over the weekend to make sure they funded the like 6 to 8 projects.
Mhm.
The what projects
6 to 8 projects,
in the bill?
I did double check that they had them and they had the correct amounts.
So that's in this bill. I just haven't gotten there yet.
I've also looked, yeah, I looked at it.
So they've appropriated that.
I was trying to find the section quickly, but I can just tell you the numbers are there.
Little hint, read the bill from the back,
Starts on page 104,
104. I didn't get that far.
11.
Wanted to make sure the money got appropriated, so the money's been appropriated. And then there's the 2 million for the bees.
Is that under the administrative?
Be under a
The one
It's actually for, they appropriated directly to DHCD. I think they talked to folks about where it would end up. The relevant line is, it's section B 1100 in 6, if you're looking for that, because I had to
Yes,
ask yesterday, I
it's on-
couldn't find it.
It's on page 100, because I already know that.
So it's in there.
Cool.
It just doesn't look like what we sent them.
That's fine.
Why?
So the development of housing and related infrastructure.
Well, that's broad.
It looks awfully different in the presentation of the budget is, I think, but right, when we see it in our list of items in the capital bills, we've been talking about this discrete thing. We know how it got there. It just looks like one more line item of the budget, so. Fine.
That's good. So, what I'd like to do now while we have time and for folks to start working, and if you know what sections you're gonna be reporting, I'd like to kind of figure that out. I'd like to have, I give an introductory. It's a broad overview.
Bye.
Yeah, I don't think you need to get smart.
Smile on that.
But you sent me the thing.
I did send you, the one thing I did want to note is the email just goes to drafting ops. So if you wanted to do the courtesy piece that you were talking about, just make sure that you copy drafting ops, doesn't need to know the vote or things like that. The email I sent is just so they receive the information they need for approval, but anything beyond that you would need to add. But it should cover your bases.
Come back and visit when you have time.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
He's going not.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything.
Please, Jen. Thank you, John.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I haven't really figured this out yet for sections, you should get ahead of it, but. So as I said, I give an introductory kind of very, very broad, and then we just basically go through the sections as they're listed on a spreadsheet. But for some of these areas, there is language in the back as well. So if there's language in the back that pertains to one of the items, it's really good in that report to talk about the language in the back. And I'm not sure, I haven't really gone through it as much as I should. I don't think there is much in the back language. That pertains to individual items. I think the way that John did it, the language, if we did any language, it was more right with that section. Do folks know what I'm talking about?
It seems like in the past it was all.
We had language sometimes that you could move money between the items, or we would appropriate, we'd have a line item for a project, but we would explain it more in depth in the language section at the back of the bill. I don't think we've done that as much. Like an example was when we did the, anything with the correctional facilities, like when we did the women's facility, we had some goals that we wanted to reach in terms of that, so we put the language in the back of the bill. The same thing happened when we did the booking area for St. Albans. There was that extensive language in the back that you had to talk to federal marshals, and then you had to design the booking area a certain way. I don't think we have anything like that.
Good example is on page 15,
Page 15.
starting line 8.
Yeah, that's the ag A&R. But that's right in the same section, though.
Yeah.
That's right in the same section. So that's the way John is thinking. So in looking at the spreadsheet, what I'd like to do is first off, just kind of break it up in terms of where people see the natural break in terms of sections. So what I would put out there, and people correct me, and folks who have been here before, Mary, Gina, Connor, Troy, I kind of see BGS having section 2 with BGS having its own report, possibly. And then DOC having their own report, or we could combine 2 and 3.
That's the way I had it. It's smaller DOC, but it tends to get more questions is the only thing, you know?
Or we could, we could do 2 separate folks there.
Right.
Section 4 and section 5
Get those driving
are
together.
really connected.
About the 6 month going.
And then you've got the vets home, you've got UVM, you've got state colleges.
This could go together.
You could do all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With commerce and community development and building community grants.
I think so.
Yeah, those last, up to,
Through section 8.
yeah, veterans home and the colleges is nothing.
So section 4, section 5,
I hope they're not-
section 6, section 7, and section 8.
Yes.
Let me get this. So 1 is by itself. No, 1 and 2.
There's no 1. 2 and
2 and 3.
Did we say 2 and 3 are together?
Yeah.
And then 4 through 8.
8.
Well, I'm looking at, hang on here. I'm wondering if we did. Okay, before we figure out section 7 and 8. I know Will is willing to do section 10, right? Clean water.
Section.
I'm wondering if that's too much of a lift, if section 9 as well. Do all that together.
Yeah. Well, 9 and 10 are cousins. Sort
There's a
of.
lot of information there.
All in agreement with the governor. Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we didn't change anything in there.
Right, so that's fairly.
So keep 9 and 10 together?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got section 4, section 5, section 6, section 7, and section 8 altogether.
Mhm.
Yep. And then section 9 and 10 are together. We got 3 people so far. And then
These are all small.
yeah, but the judiciary thing is, and the ag and A&R lab is big.
It's a big expense, but it's not that.
Complicated.
It's not that
No, I mean, They're
complicated.
smaller allocations that are have more moving parts and explanations.
So do section 11 all the way to section 16.
What about? Yeah.
I think so. Unless there's a dying, if that's the intent to have 4 people speaking.
Well, we got language in the back. We got some stuff in the back. We got the allocations, we got the balance.
The reallocations is a different presenter, right?
Then you kick into language. After that, you kick into language.
Mhm.
So the reallocations start on page 18 of the bill. Gotta go to the bill. We got two sections, two items to the reallocations. And we'll just talk about the bonds. And then on page 24,
Is the reallocations one section, like one presenter?
well, that's what we gotta look, because you gotta go to your bill, folks.
Mhm.
You gotta go to the language.
19,
18,
18.
you got section 17 goes all the way to, and these are simple, person does not have to go into each individual item. Just talk about, and I'm gonna look at Brian for this, because you were on the repo. Talk about how we operate the reallocations, what they are in a broad scope, it's unexpended dollars that gets reallocated and appropriated in this, in a capital budget, and these are just a list of items from previous capital bills. And then we've also got a new item on page 22, which is J, which is the notwithstanding, that's older than 5 years. And these are items that the repo committee worked through and found these, so we're allowing these dollars to stay there. We are not reallocating these dollars. Because the notwithstanding is saying, regardless that it's over 5 years old, not being reallocated. 18 is real simple, giving authorization for 100 million in bonds. And then section 19 is where this is the cash fund. This is all cash fund. So section 19 is all the projects that we're allocating for cash fund.
It's not supposed to say section 19 on the spreadsheet, is it?
There is no
No.
section
Yeah.
19.
Column, the section 19.
Gotcha.
The spreadsheet doesn't have an actual
Yeah,
horizontal section. I'm assuming you're saying reallocations is a different presentation than reallocations.
Reallocations of its own presentation.
Then a cash fund.
Well, the way you report, whoever does section 2, if we just projects,
Should grab those and pull them in.
should talk that some of those are done with cash as well as bonds, and you can see that on the spreadsheet. And then the same with the vet's home. There's cash. Those are the two places where there's cash. So whomever's doing section 2 for the projects can lay out, like you could say, major maintenance. The governor recommended $8 million be used cash in FY 26 in our deliberation. We moved it to 7.138 and bonded and left it and 861 in cash. Then we can also say with a 3-acre parcel, we've agreed with a 1.5 million bonded in FY 26. We decided in FY 27 for 1.1 million in bonds. Then you can say for State House repointing, we kept for cash, 219,500. So if there's a project that is both bonded and cash, you can lay out the two funding sources. So like for the Middlesex Coastal, there's 58.2 thousand. It's bonded and there's 250,000 cash. So when the person has the section 17 that lays out, wait a minute, not 17, 19 that lays out all the projects, they've already been discussed.
It's a good plan.
Person can say they've already been discussed, and the member from so-and-so and the member from, because it's going to be other people. It's already been discussed in the previous reports. And then we've got section 20 that deals with the governor's budget. Just clarifying that it's when the governor's address, the capital bill gets presented. Page 27, section 21, the underlying language, that's the charts that we would like in our book for the projects. Section 22 is clarifying when the clock starts ticking in terms of the reallocation piece for the cash fund. It's unclear, so we're very clear, sweet, and we're extending it one other year, one extra year. It was 2 years. And we're clear it's going to be 3 years. And the clock starts ticking at the end of a legislative session. Section 23 is a transfer of Randall Meadow.
And we agreed end of the legislative session is after the veto session.
Yeah. And
Technically almost take us about 4 years, so if this has to get extended again, we could fix it in the next capital bill.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then page 29 is, we've got to go back to our capital bill of last year. So we're amending that language. There's a special committee that's set up, that's JFC, Joint Fiscal Committee, with the 2 chairs of the Institutions Committee. In case there's any decision made over the summer and fall from FEMA or not, and how we move forward. Joint Fiscal Committee, upon recommendation and consultation with the 2 chairs of institutions, can take some action on behalf of the state in case we need to make some decisions about the Capitol complex. And then we've also put in that there'd be notification to the city of Montpelier and the Montpelier Commission for Recovery and Resilience to any alterations to the proposal of the plan for the flood recovery in the Capitol complex. We took out section 25 from last year's capital bill. Report that was due about what do we do with the old Chittenden facility once it's empty. We decided that's going to be so long down the road that the report would be outdated, so we repealed that. And then we want to make sure on section 26 that any federal monies that come in for the vets home for the emergency generator and the boiler plant replacement and an elevator upgrade, that that would be used to offset future capital construction projects. And then the Sergeant at Arms, section 27, is that reallocation of the balance of the State House cafeteria. So we could put all those sections in
Yep.
at the last, but that's a lot of possible work, but
It's easy.
maybe not. Brian, would you feel comfortable doing all of that at the end?
From 17 on?
Yeah,
And then switch into the bill, all of them.
it's all on the bill. It's not the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Or should we split that up? No,
I-
no, I'm serious. Can we split it up?
I split, but.
Alice, I have not done this before. So, I don't know. Whatever you
Yes.
think, it's whatever you think.
I don't mind taking from section 20 to the end, you know? It's a couple tricky ones.
You want to do 20 to the end, Connor? No obligation. 19 is the cash, which a lot of that, I'll work with each and every one of you. Don't worry about it.
So if he wants to do 20 to the end, so maybe Brian could be 17, 18, 19.
Does that make sense?
Connor, you're gonna do 20 to the end. And then you give the committee vote.
Gotcha. Yep.
And you don't have to give anything in terms of who we heard,
Okay.
okay?
Oh, really?
The list would be so long.
Does anybody have to do that, or it's just good form
For what?
for policy committees?
Policy committees you do.
It's
You
gonna be
have
hard
to
for-
list. So
Brian, you're
for money bills,
19.
you don't have to. list.
There would be 80 different
Everybody and their
entities.
brother, yeah.
I mean, appropriations, you'd have 200, 300, so.
You could be here till we adjourn.
These bills are handled a little different. For.
That makes sense.
Only.
That leaves us three sections to cover.
Yeah.
17,
So-
19 is Brian.
So,
I'm happy to do something, or I'm happy to.
hang on.
Or not.
Backwards, sort of.
It's important to have the freshmen.
They're going, yeah. So Brian, you're gonna do 17
Through 19.
18.
to 19.
Okay.
Okay?
In the bill, section
That's
17.
in the bill. That's not on the
18.
spreadsheet. It's the bill.
You're talking about the page. No,
No,
section.
section
numbers.
Let me know.
You'll do
It
19.
is not in there, but-
You're 9 and 10.
Yeah, no, I'll be studying, so thank you, I will.
17 to 19. Okay, so we got the language. Now let's go back to the spreadsheet. Who would be interested in doing BGS and corrections?
But I can do that.
Want to do that, Joe? Okay,
So that's 2 and 3.
Yes. I get sections 2 and 3.
and I'll tell you, I'll work with everyone because you just have to give a very high level report. You don't have to read each line and say how much it is.
So
No one wants to do that.
in other terms, would you speak about just the aggregate dollars for the section?
For the specifics.
What you usually do, what I tend to do is highlight some of the bigger projects or bigger items, like major maintenance is a big item. And we did a shift of money. The 3-acre parcel. We can talk about what entities we're gonna be doing it with. I've got the list. And we can justify why we cut it back by 400,000 for that, because we did cut it back. People will ask, so we have to mention,
Yeah,
right?
it's because the stuff just couldn't be done in sequence.
But also it's permitting when they get the permits. I'll go through the list.
Yes, but more so if it's to the same end.
Yep. And you can just say like State House repointing, that's gonna be a big project. And this is just the beginning of it.
Correct.
And then the Waterbury Complex, that's a big project. You can talk a little bit about that. So you highlight more of the bigger projects and just say, you know, the bulk of our capital bill, some of it's going to BGS.
Yeah.
Section 2. And then DOC, that one is going to be more complicated. But you gotta get into the HVAC system for work that's already occurred. And where we want to go with this and why we cut it back, because there's previous money that's been put there in FY 23 and 24 and 25.
Right.
And then, you know, if you say accessibility upgrades and correctional facilities, that's to me a Department of Justice agreement, and we have to complete that. Door systems, we're gonna be finishing up St. Johnsbury first and then move on to Rutland. St. Albans, a roof replacement, you can explain a little bit why we cut that, because that's connected to the booking that we did last year. And then a sprinkler system, I can't remember why we cut that one back a little bit. I think they just weren't quite ready to go with it.
I think you're right.
So I can work with you on some of that background information and just keep it really high level. You don't have to get in the weeds. So who would like to do commerce, community development, building community grants, Vets Home, UVM, and State College?
Yeah, I mean,
He's already done
Yeah.
something.
I've already done something,
I'm gonna
so.
Spread it out.
Evan,
Kevin, would you
I'll
be?
try wherever you want me to try.
That's good.
Winner, step on.
Kevin, I'll work with you.
So the
You're from Shrewsbury, Kevin?
community development
Ludlow, but you live in Shrewsbury.
and the community.
That's just unique about this.
Ludlow.
He lives in Ludlow,
Most of anything.
so it's Ludlow.
Yes.
Oh, you can see the gent from here.
So then we
Said my
said,
Section 4 and 5 is Kevin,
Yeah, 4 through 8.
4 through 8.
or I meant fourth.
and then Will has got section 9 and 10.
How do we anticipate this being read?
So that's
Friday.
not, because it's
The,
gonna.
Friday,
Friday, so it's quick. It's quick turnaround.
it will help if you sit in with me tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
What else would I do?
You get in trouble.
So we gotta figure out 11 through
I
16.
already had that.
Troy, would you be willing to do 11, 12, 13, 14,
Yes.
15, 16?
Because that should.
Like you say, there's that battery backup thing.
Battery backup.
The 190.
119.
It's not.
Line one.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only thing. Yeah.
But you gotta get into the Randolph one, because that, we got language on that one, and there's previous money from the previous capital bill.
The power plant, yeah.
I'll find it.
So you can do 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
Sure.
Then I'm yielding to the
Then,
gentleman.
yeah, we're gonna have the whole list written out.
Yeah.
Who's doing 6, 7, and 8?
Kevin.
Kevin's doing 4.
4 through 8, yeah.
So Kevin's gonna, so this is the way it's gonna go, folks. Okay,
Yeah.
now I got it. I got it. So I start off, and then he left. I start off, and then I yield to Joe. Joe does his, he'll yield to Kevin. Kevin, you do your thing, you yield to Will. Will, you do your thing and yield to Troy. And then Troy's gonna yield
I got all of these.
to Brian. Don't worry, you're gonna get the list. Phil's gonna do the list, and I have to give the list to the speaker.
Yeah.
And then Brian is going to yield to Carl.
In the BS.
Straight cut.
We moved it and let them use it to a unit instead.
And then-
1100. Heard from these 500.
No, we're not.
We dare you.
Everybody get that?
It shows up here.
The key person to get it is Phil.
Yeah, I got it. 57.
Phil's gonna write it all down.
Let me put it on the board.
You get it.
So,
Who's section 9 and 10? That is Will.
Well, really well.
so do folks wanna go just quietly kind of work in their own section and see what comes up, and I'm here? Cause we gotta start working on it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to wait until. Do folks wanna do it as a committee, or do you wanna just do it? We go off, you just go off somewhere and work on it?
You want to give them kind of a little,
Templates.
like, kind of template as to how you would do it if you were presenting it, especially for the freshmen.
I'll take
Because I
all.
think that will be helpful, because I think usually folks look at, I've seen with some of the other committees where they'll want to zoom in on like the amount and this and that and read off a lot. So how would you like?
So what I would recommend doing is I'll start with Kevin section, because I already did a little bit for BGS and DOC. So for that, oh boy, you got the 3 Bs.
He can handle it.
So for commerce and community development, our dollars in this section go basically to our historic sites. And you will see major maintenance, underwater preserves, roadside historic site markers. Those are the markers you'll see out there, those green signs for historic sites. And We did the governor's recommend on the major maintenance for historic sites and underwater preserves. We did add 25,000 for the markers because through testimony, I think,
Get behind, aren't they?
yeah, they need about, I think they said they're about 15,000 and then 15 or 20,000 already in the pipeline that they would need to pay for. And then this is also paying for that and going forward. The Bennington Battle, the monument, we put in $500,000 last year. For fencing, there is approximately 400,000 left over from that. So we have applied that 400,000 in addition to 125 for a total of 525,000 to go towards the maintenance of the fence as well as planning and design for the future restoration of the monument.
How that was put,
Hmm?
like how that was put, future.
Now, the backup, when somebody asks, it's to allow them to go out for an RFP, figure out how they can enclose the monument for it to dry out. Because that's the first step in the restoration. Building community grants is ongoing in our capital budget. These are small grant programs. They are targeted towards municipalities and nonprofits. They are a one-to-one match. Each individual program has a respective board or committee that reviews the projects that come in. These are projects that for infrastructure upgrade only, not for operating. And they're from municipalities and nonprofits. So you could give an example like it could be a recreational program in a municipality to upgrade bleachers in one of their sports fields. Or it could be an adult daycare center that needs a new boiler or needs a new roof. It's those particular items.
I don't recall that at all.
There's just examples.
You're aware of one of these, having one of those in there?
But they're just examples.
They're grants, they're examples of what the grant program's used for. So what you could do is just give examples of what the grant dollars go to. It's infrastructure, it could be roofing, could be ADA, it could be HVAC systems, those type of things. So like your recreational facilities grants could be like a town would have a ball field that needs bleachers. Or might have a community center that needs a new heating system, and they would apply. And the grants are usually around 25,000, and it's a one-to-one match. So there's small grants to help small local nonprofits with infrastructure upgrades. And these are very popular, and that's why we upped the money from 250 to 300. And we've always been fair in distributing the same amount across all the grant programs. So the best thing to do is go to your book, go to the tab for agency for building community grants, go to your 3-ring notebook, go to that tab for building community grants, and that will give you the background on all of them. And the same thing with commerce and community development. Go to the tab in your book and it gives you the background of those. And that's where you can pick up little words. Oh, the vets.
I was
Mhm.
gonna say, like Alice said, you don't have to give every single one of them, you just give some highlights of it. Sorry.
So the vets home, they were talking about replacing of air handlers. I forgot how many they were looking at. And then expansion of the laundry facility. They have to build a new room for that, and they're really debating, trying to figure out how many washers and dryers. So because they're not sure exactly how it's all gonna play out, we've put in language that they can, I believe we put in language that they can move money between these two items.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then the design and construction of the American unit, this is new in a way, because last year, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, I'll find it for you, Kevin. We put in 1.5 million for the vet's home to renovate B and C wing. In testimony, it came to light they're not ready to go ahead with B and C wing. A wing is becoming more of a priority, and that has to be totally rebuilt. So we have moved the money that we appropriated 2 years ago to B and C wing. We have appropriated here to A wing,
Technically reallocated.
technically reallocated it.
It'll show up in the reallocations.
UVM, this is, we yearly appropriate money, allocate money to both UVM and state colleges for them to use for renovations or the major maintenance. We wanted to make sure they were equal at 1.5 million. And that's why you will see in FY 27, it's 1.5, not 1.6. In state colleges,
I'd have a problem.
Hmm?
I'm just talking out loud.
in the state colleges, in the Johnson State College campus, there is a need for the heating plant. It's 50 years old. They're having a lot of problems with it. So we have agreed with the governor's recommend of 5 million to go out to design the plant, the heating plant, and for construction. Okay? And then you will yield to Will. So Will, what you're gonna be doing is the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund. I can't remember why there's no. Is it because they didn't have as many grants come through in FY 26, in FY 25, and that's why there's no money? I know that's the case for the clean water. Is that the case for the drinking water?
And for that,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's why there was no money there, but there's 5, and this is to match federal dollars. It's a 5-to-1 match. And this is our state share. Dam safety, this has been ongoing. It might be good for you folks that worked on the dams to give some of those documents to
Yeah,
Will,
we got
and I
Yeah.
want to see I need to have those documents.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a new one there. That's,
Yeah. Those are ANR dams that are owned by DEC and Fish and Wildlife. Okay. Forest Parks and Rec, this is for upgrades to our state park system. It's for upgrade to our state park system. We do this on a yearly basis. This tracks what we have done previously. It could be campsites, it could be bathhouses, it could be main offices for the park ranger. And also our parks are going to have to comply with the 3-acre rule. But that's the stormwater, and these dollars will go to that. Public lands access infrastructure, this is for, it's like Forest and Parks and Rec. They may have, I think what came to mind was some of the recreational areas are under the jurisdiction of Forest Parks and Recs, but maybe they don't have a parking area there and folks are parking on the road. So it's putting in those ancillary access areas to some of the public lands that Forest and Parks owns. Fish and Wildlife. This is major maintenance of, it could be access areas, wildlife management areas, upgrades to This doesn't deal at all with hatcheries, does it?
No.
We're not doing
A lot of
anything.
3 acre rule money in Fish and Wildlife.
Hmm?
Fish and Wildlife is a lot of 3 acre rule money, compliance money,
It's forests and parks.
of force and parts. That's correct.
It's forests and parks. Fish and wildlife, it's more their access areas
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry.
and infrastructure. Look at their, I would look on their tab in the book.
Okay.
And then clean water, your water quality grants, that goes to the Agency of Agriculture to help farmers meet their the clean water regs. Farming. Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, that's your wastewater systems. Again, that's our 5-to-1 match, and there wasn't anything needed in FY 26 because their grants, they were anticipating in the previous years didn't come through as much, so they still had money left over from last year's. And Will, I think when you get into section 10, you have to be really clear. We only know the allocations for FY 26, not FY 27, because the recommendation for clean water for that 10 million and how it's allocated comes from the Clean Water Fund Board. And they only do it 1 year at a time. So we have put aside for FY 27, $10 million of our capital budget, and that will be allocated this coming December to show up in next year's. Municipal pollution grants go directly back to our communities for wastewater projects, as well as combined sewer overflow and stormwater projects. A&R, forestry access road water quality, those are our access roads that go into any of our forests and parks owned lands to deal with water runoff. Meet our clean water standards. And then VHCB, again, there's more money that goes to ag and farmers to help with water quality projects to address our TMDL. And that's a total of 2.8 million total for VHCB, and that can do, those dollars match a lot of federal dollars and other dollars that might be available.
Under one matches.
No, I wouldn't get into, no,
Yes, that's the.
because it's not one to be all over.
Okay, so that one varied, but for the other matches.
So that's your building community grants. That's something totally different.
Don't really get into the 5-to-1 matches, so.
Well, for the clean water and drinking water, yes,
Yeah,
that's
that's what you-
totally
that's what-
different than the VHCB.
Okay.
Totally different.
I'll touch it on.
Troy, you know what you're doing, right?
In good shape. I'll let you know if I have any questions.
Hmm?
I'm in good shape. I'll let you know if I have any questions.
And then we
Let me
can,
just ask you one question.
yeah,
The Newport Courthouse, we have, that's primarily because we have 3 million in place and there's just no land yet, right?
right.
There's nothing else you want me to bring into that. So we've shaved down 1 million.
Yes.
And if we can BAA that, because that's FY 27.
Right.
And then anything, or the Lamoille County Courthouse, I'm just gonna say that that's a county courthouse, but it's used for state purposes at some time, so we've agreed to pay 190 for the backup.
All of these courthouses, Newport,
I'll give you a script tomorrow and you can look.
Essex, Woodstock, Essex, Memorial are county courthouses, but they all hold state function. White River and Newport, we own those courthouses. And the 8 million for White River matches. In addition, I think we've put 6 million there already,
And that finishes the project.
and that finishes the project. And that is cash. That one is cash. That's
Yeah.
the other big cash.
I'll find my note.
But then we switched to language. So Brian, on 17, Just have to mention, this is a process that we all go through every capital budget cycle, the reallocation of funds. And the reallocation of funds, you just explain what it is. And then you don't have to go through any of these. You can just say, these are a list of projects that have been approved in previous capital bills. Either the projects have been completed and there's a project balance left, or the project is not going forward as planned, and there's unexpended dollars. So if anything is unencumbered, anything is unspent, is not under contract, we have reallocated those dollars and put it towards the bottom line of our capital budget to be spent in this current capital. So what you're going to see here is just a list of those. And then you can highlight, if you want, the top of page 22, J. We're going to see a notwithstanding.
Yeah.
And for those items on J, K, L, and M, if there are projects that have been approved and are 5 years old or more and still have unspent dollars, we automatically reallocate that unless they can show to us that they need the money.
Well, and that this was already theoretically should have been the case, but we discovered it to be the case this year.
Right. And
Yeah.
so the notwithstanding allows these particular items, these particular projects to hold on to the money. So the money does not get reallocated. They made their case, we agreed. And you can say, we have 3 members of the committee worked in depth on the reallocation. And we're the ones that discovered this. And
I would also say there's no disagreement with, we took testimony on all these agencies and we're all of them.
Yeah, we're
We're in
not
agreement with
pulling
all.
teeth or anything. Yeah.
It's not like we took it from them.
Well,
right.
We figured out what was left and what wasn't.
yep.
Section 18 just authorizes the treasurer to issue bonds for 2 years for the amount of 100 million. All that says. And then 19, this is the cash fund. There are projects that are paid with from general fund dollars that were explained in the reports when the projects were reported on from other committee members. And there's a total of 7 total amount of cash for our budget. Our capital bill budget is 9.631. 9,631.
And it's necessary to talk about why cash or not.
If you want to. Yeah. Brings down our bonded indebtedness, helps our credit card. And then you yield over to Connor. Connor, you need any help?
I'm feeling good. I do have one question. I could anticipate getting some response on the X-ray machine.
Yep.
Because over the years, I know our colleagues have had an aversion to the idea of coming through an X-ray machine. I don't recall hearing testimony on
We
this.
did. It
Okay,
was in, unfortunately. This is capital dollars. Okay? We had $100 for the chairs and the cafeteria. They didn't spend the full 100,000. With joint legislative management committee approval, Sergeant Arms purchased the X-ray machines we use when, like at the governor's budget address.
Yep.
Or the inauguration, or if there's, could be a day here where we might have conflicting groups coming in. And Sergeant Arms may feel that things could escalate, or there's going to be a lot of people in the building. They can bring out the X-ray machine at the entrance.
So it's not a permanent
It's not
structure.
permanent.
I think that's the only distinction I'll need to
It
make,
is
you know.
not permanent. If you have a badge, like we do not have to go through it. It's more for the public for security.
Mhm.
So what happened, the Sergeant Arms purchased this, in hopes that the remaining balance of the 100,000 could reimburse it.
Gotcha.
It was put in the appropriations BAA. They were reallocating our capital dollars. So with the BAA probably seeing another veto, we're putting it in our bill to make sure that the Sergeant at Arms budget gets made whole.
Okay. I guess
It's
I'll
not-
just be prepared to
Yeah, it's
answer if
not
they
permanent.
ask. Yeah.
It's worked through the Sergeant at Arms and the Capitol Police.
Who's in the Joint Legislative Management Committee too?
It's the lead, President Pro Tem and the Speaker. I know on our side, this last time, there was Jill, Representative Lisa Wood, Representative Shaw, had James. Who else on our side? I think there's 5 and 5.
Okay.
And on the Senate side was Senator Baruth, Senator Kitchell, Senator Brock, Senator Hashim.
Did they replace Kitchen?
Yeah, they have a whole new appointment now. I know. But that's who was there before.
That's the only one I'm worried. I might get.
It's really covering because if the budget adjustment gets vetoed,
That's it.
this is reallocating our capital dollars because we put in 100,000 last year for the cafeteria chairs. So the best thing to do, folks, go to your book, your 3-ring notebook, go to your book, go to the tabs that have your section, and just read those summaries that will help you in any notes that you may have. And just do something really simple. Don't get into depth in these projects because you're going to bore people to death. And the report itself is going to take half an hour, 45 minutes.
So let me get back to the overview. We're gonna come back in tomorrow morning and take a look at what we've come up with. And we're going to, as a group, edit it.
Well, not really.
How do you see this happening? Because we need to have it done by when?
It's going to be on the floor Friday morning.
Friday morning.
Alice, do we want to hear a small portion of theirs as to how it's being said so that you're satisfied with what it is?
Yeah, my focus right now is what I need to present to approach.
Yeah.
And if you come in and sit tomorrow in approach, that will help you.
Yes, very much so.
If I can get my act together.
It's 9 o'clock.
And I'm gonna work on some of this tonight.
I'll have my script done for my sections tonight, if that will be helpful for you at all tomorrow.
And helpful for the committee and
Yeah.
to do it. This is where you realize what you picked up listening, but you didn't pick up. listening.
We do have a tradition where we interrogate the freshmen ourselves on the floor. Amazing thing.
No.
Here you go, folks.
The initiation I talked about. I said, you know, the initiation I talked about earlier in the session, well, this is it.
Yeah.
For the freshmen.
Well, the important thing to remember, like Alice has said multiple times, is like, you're not gonna go word for word, you're not covering every project, you're gonna go pick out some highlights and get some examples, but the other side is you have to be prepared if they do ask you a question about something else. So it's not like, well, I'm just choosing these 3 things out of 10, and I don't have to worry about the other 7, but don't talk about all 7, you know, and if you, and at least in my experience here, if you speak with them in confidence, with confidence, you're probably less likely to get questions about other stuff because people buy into what you're saying and they don't think you're BSing.
And to that point in your section, Kevin,
Yeah.
that's why I pointed out those areas where we've added money that the governor didn't put in there, but it's all reallocated money. So you might get questions like, yeah, it's not new.
The historic markers is new.
The historic markers is new because we realized that they were shortchanged with stuff.
Oh, are you okay?
But that's why I especially pointed that out, so that
And you can say for those 3 projects, the 3 Bs, we took testimony on this. And these are private entities. And these were capital dollars.
Oh.
And the committee has some real concern.
Right.
about opening up our capital bill towards private entities.
Yeah.
And we have moved these projects over to cash.
Yeah.
And that is now in the big bill. I wouldn't even go into the amount.
Nope. Don't even go into it now.
Keep it high level
You say it's in the big bill.
in the big bill.
We made a
And
committee judgment that we want to protect the capital bill. We moved the money over to cash. That's
$2
right
million,
now.
correct?
Yes,
$2 million.
we're not mentioning that. But yes, and you just said it's an appropriations bill. To hear about that when that bill was presented, whatever.
They're going.
yeah, they're going
Oh,
first.
okay,
They'll
we've
be
already
there.
Heard about that yesterday.
You heard about it yesterday.
Heard about it yesterday.
Weren't you listening?
Nothing to see here.
Well, that's why many times I've asked the committee members, do you understand testimony? Or what was said in the testimony? What is the money going to be used for? How much is going out the door? How much from the previous appropriation did they get out the door? That all ties into your report. So next year, you're going to be so much more. So anything else? Because while it's fresh, maybe when we go off here, just spend some time working with your book on the tabs and see what comes to mind.
We can help you, and like in Will's case, for example, as Alice pointed out, the dams people are gonna have to give Will some
Yeah, I wanna
information, by, you know,
I want to get those done.
we'll all work together.
Copy this now?
Yes.
You copy them.
Of course, yeah.
Awesome.
Anything else before we go off of YouTube for the day?
Go get some tea.
I think we're gonna be doing scheduling a little bit for this week. Tomorrow, I'm sorry, I'm just booked up. Tomorrow morning is my focus going to approach.
What time are you going to approach?
And they may have an amendment. We don't know. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
What? What would they have it on?
I have no idea.
And if they do,
It
then
would be more maybe language cleanup or something.
We'll deal with that as it comes.
that's fair.
Be there.
So feel free, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, sit in the audience. That will help you, I hope. What I'd like to do too is start looking at issues that we need to start working on. I know we talked about, well, we'll deal with this after we get our capital bill out. We'll deal with this after we get our capital bill out. We do have some bills on the wall too that we can possibly start taking testimony on. So we will figure all that out.
One question that came up is the murky ownership and maintenance status of all the courthouses.
Yep. So maybe we can spend some time talking as a committee in terms of what some of those dangling issues are out there, so we can confirm up testimony for that. That would be helpful.
Well, to that end, I guess we'll talk about it later, but I'm thinking about the meeting that we'll have between the subcommittees of ours and judiciary and I don't know if they need to hear more, or we need to hear more, or we need to be together.
Yeah, we'll meet again and we'll have a chat, but, yeah, we definitely need more.
Yeah.
I'd like to get tea before 3 o'clock.
Okay,
Nice.
anything else before we go off of YouTube for the day?
No.
Okay, we're done, and we'll be back on YouTube sometime tomorrow. We're just not sure, but 9 o'clock and approach.